Hello guys, how you doing? Today we're gonna talk about the movie Midnight in Paris. If you're a hopeless romantic or a dreamer, this movie is for you. I tried to film this video in a more woo way, but today I'm not feeling like that. I'm just not feeling as woo. So instead of following the script I still have the bullet points, but instead of following, I'm just gonna talk about the movie and what I thought about it. Midnight in Paris is a movie for romantic people, delusional people, weird people, people that like old stuff, nice people. I love this movie because I love the vibes that it brings, but it is also aware that not only the movie but the character itself understands that those vibes are so important. When we start the movie, we get a really long shot of images of Paris because the movie wants to show us that this is what the main character thinks of Paris, and he thinks it's beautiful. It is indeed. But as the movie starts, we understand a little bit of the dynamics the character has with other characters around him. First, we see that the first thing they say is already disagreeing. We see they don't have chemistry. Gil likes books, he likes old friends, he likes old stores, and his girlfriend, to be honest, I don't know what she likes, but I just know that she's not into what Gil thinks, wants, or even speaks. Like, she just doesn't care. And treats Gil as if he was dumb every time he speaks. So that makes me think, what made Gil want to be with his girlfriend in the first place? And this is a question that we will see him question as well, but later on in the movie, because Gil is actually quite naive. Oftentimes being a dreamy person makes you quite, I'm not gonna say dumb, but airheaded. I relate a little. Do you? Just so I don't roast myself alone. Are you airheaded? Now, talking more specifically about Paul, from what I remember, he's a respectable person in Gil's fiance's eyes. He has a respectful job and he knows all of this stuff about friends. But when Gil says something, it's like, shut up, he's talking. Girl, what's that about? Knowing that Paul has a girlfriend, the heck? Anyways, I really like this kind of movie because it gives me an interesting feeling of nostalgia. It brings to my head feelings that I must have forgotten because I just feel so you feel me? I don't know what's the right word to describe it, but it's warm. I agree to a certain extent. Neil wasn't appreciated for the ones that were closest to him, the ones that should have his back. And he did like the romantic aspect that friends in the late 20s offered. So he was inclined to that. He was inclined to the whole dancing in the rain, to the whole romantic friends. And this generation wasn't giving him this. Imagine if Jill was born in this generation. He would cry. Romanticism? That thing only exists in YouTube videos now. We can't do that. We can't do that no more. At least from what I've seen. I'm sure there's people that still do that, but yeah, yeah. There is a reason for me to like this kind of movie, why I like old movies so much. I am as well somehow romantic as well. I like the colors that these movies present. I like the city and I like the rain. I love the nostalgic feeling that these movies carry. They remind me of a time where people cared more. They really cared more about the movie message instead of just doing 1 to 2 hours of dopamine shots. If making movies was playing pretend, it seems as though kids lost all their imagination and now all they can do is crash cars. movies are actually getting dumber because so are we. So, there's a part in the movie where after a gathering that they have, Gil is tired and he wants to go back to his hotel, but his girlfriend doesn't want to go. So she says like, okay, go, and I'll go with Paul and his girlfriend and we're going to a party. And he's like, okay. But because Gil is a romantic, he decides to walk on the streets of Paris. There, when midnight hits, a taxi comes up. Taxi is not a normal taxi. It's a taxi that travels to time. The people on the taxi invite him in and he just goes. When he gets in the car, we see that those people that are there, they're dressed in old-fashioned clothes. They take him to a party where people are also dressed in old-fashioned clothes. And as Gil starts to meet some people that they have like names, like I've heard that name before. Like he realizes, wait, I'm actually in the past. Gil went to his golden era. He went to the late 20s. And it's interesting because here, when Gil says he's a writer, he doesn't have to say more after that, you know? Because I feel like in his normal world, like in the present, the fact that he's a writer brings shame, not to him, but to the people around him. But here, when he says he's a writer, he doesn't need to pause or add something after that. You know, it's just okay to be a writer. It's actually respected. He's not made little when he says that, but people actually see it as a gift. And we have a moment where he meets Hemingway and he asks him to read his novel, but Hemingway says that he doesn't want to read it because if it's too good, he's gonna be mad. Or if it's bad, he's just gonna be mad as well. So yeah, his point is that like a writer shouldn't read other writers' job because it's like competition. So I want to ask you something. Do you think that writers, all kinds of writers, screenwriters, normal writers, book writers, all kinds of writers, do you think that they compete with each other nowadays? I don't know if they do, but if they don't, for me personally, I think it would be a good idea to start doing it, made in a healthy way. That would be a way to push ourselves further, because if you're competing against someone, you will want to increase the bar and not just stay in the same copy-pasted thing. Because I feel like we can see a lot of the same stuff just with another name, another face. I think we should compete, but not in a bad way, just in a okay, nice movie, I'm gonna do better, because that would actually force us writers to do more, to have actual experiences and put out what is here, to put it out to people. That's what writing should do. It should tell people what you can't say with your own mouth. I don't agree with Hemi when he says declare yourself the best writer. You don't need to be the best, because if you only compete with others, your bar is gonna be too low. It's you who you should fight against. Don't underestimate the damage that underestimating yourself will cause you. Gil tries to take his girlfriend to the place where he found all of those wonders by taking her to the taxi, but the taxi doesn't come until midnight and she leaves before that. When the taxi finally comes, Hemingway is the one there waiting for Gil. In their conversation, they talk about love and how love, real love, should make a man not fear death.
When you make love to her, you feel true and beautiful passion, and you, for at least that moment, lose your fear of death.
No, that doesn't happen.
My previous video, I talked about love and how it makes you humiliate yourself, but now I feel like what Hemingway is making me realize is that a man should fight for his love, as if it was a level in a game that he needs to unlock to reach a certain point of maybe masculinity. And I know that nowadays that can be seen as something bad, but I don't think that being seen as a prize is supposed or was supposed to initially be seen as something bad. You are so worthy to me that I would die for you. And there should be no doubt, but all the bones of the man should want to die for you, should want to protect you. And that is the prize, having you. A woman's worth is not defined by having a man, but when a man has a woman, he sure has a valuable thing. With just a little bit of dialogue, we can see that this woman is just like Gil. She's reckless and she's naive, and we can see that when she says that she moved in with a married man for 6 months. Honestly, I believe this is a great character introduction. I was hooked on her just with a few sentences. And it's interesting because at the start of this conversation, most of what she said was expository text, but it didn't feel boring. The way her character talks and moves also helps you form a perception about her. Had it not done well, could have think of her as a bad person. But the actress managed to pull the best in this character. Her gestures, facial expressions, and tone of voice. And this is something that is really interesting to me. That like, when you don't get something at home, you go and look for it at another place. I despise that kind of behavior on a level that I cannot tell you. I understand that Gil's fiance wasn't good, but I just don't mess with cheating. Like, I'm not the kind of person that if you're like, oh no, it was a relapse, but a relapse of my life. And because they started to do things that Gil wanted to do with his girlfriend, like walking at night, you know that feelings start to grow. We can see that even though he doesn't say it like this, but what I imagined that went through his head was like, oh, when I'm with her, I'm so at ease. When I'm with her, I do the things I want to do that I don't do with my fiance, and she listens to me and my fiance doesn't, and she wants to talk and walk with me and my fiance doesn't. I'm a fan of talking through mistakes, talking through rage, talking to everything. Let's stop acting like babies, please, yeah? Please. It's so annoying. That's why I feel like none of these characters it's white or black. They're literally, for me, morally gray. I hate Gil's fiance. I don't like her. But I also don't like his behavior. When Gil meets Dali,
Yes. And I am Dali. Dali. Yes.
You have to remember.
they start rambling about rhinoceros,
I like the shape of the rhinoceros.
and Gil realizes he doesn't even know if he likes his fiance. Adriana won. They were literally the same person, so it was right for them to be together, right? Because they loved each other, because they felt good with each other. It felt right. I believe there was a point in which Gil tried to confirm if his fiancée was for him, and she didn't pass his test. But what an unfair test, because they didn't talk, they didn't try to make things up. Later on, Adriana gets her chance to view her golden era, and it's wonderful. She loves it just like Gil loved Friends in the 20s. So she decides to stay there, and Gil can't wrap his head around it. Why does she want to stay here? And then he realizes. It seems as though we believe it would be easier. Things would be easier if you were another person or in another financial situation, another life. But you can't run from yourself. You're still here. Honestly, bettering your own reality instead of daydreaming is what you should do. This gives Gil the strength to end things with his fiancée and start a real thing.
Okay, yes, I did. I was with Paul for a few nights.
You felt the satisfaction she had when she said that. Gil is now free. He decided to move to Paris, and now he can start something real. Now he can manage through life without having to sacrifice the things that he loves. Now he can walk on the rain and be a writer and live in a beautiful city like Paris. Let's just stop being paralyzed by our conditions or what we think that the power of our conditions have upon us, and let's just work. Let's work towards the things that we want to do. Let's get things done. Let's push the limits that we need to push to live the life that we want to live. Of course, everything being done wisely. I do recommend you watching this movie. There's a lot of things that I didn't touch on. And it's because this movie is a little different. It's a real movie at the same time that it's surrealist. I love how it mixes things like time travel, but then when you have characters that, if you look closer, they're so relatable and so deeply interesting. Adriana, and how she's a naive woman that just wants to dream and live in her reality, and she chooses to live in the past. And then we have Gil, that was also the same, but he ends up realizing that living in the past doesn't change nothing. It just makes you stuck. Sometimes being bored with your own life or being uncontent with your life, sometimes it's your fault. Then you have to do something to get out of that situation. So this movie has to me a special place in my heart. Gil found his love after he ended what needed to be ended. He ended the it could be and start actually being. Life started, and I want to do that. I want me and I want us to start, instead of being in the this could be, he could be, she could be. Just you be it. And yeah, this movie is beautiful. Thank you for watching this video. I see you in the next one. Bye.